On Friday afternoon, March 27th, 2026, one of golf's greatest legends found himself in handcuffs. Tiger Woods, arrested again. And just days before, what could have been his triumphant return to Augusta National for the Masters. This isn't a story we wanted to tell, but it's one we need to understand. Because behind the headlines, the mugshot, and the rolled-over Range Rover on Jupiter Island, there's a more complex narrative, one that involves pain, medication, past demons, and the unrelenting pressure of trying to be Tiger Woods at age 50. Let's break down exactly what happened, and more importantly, let's examine this from every angle, because the truth, as always, is rarely simple. It was just after 2 p.m. on Friday when Jupiter Island police received reports of a rollover crash on South Beach Road. Not just anywhere on Jupiter Island, this was near 281 South Beach Road, practically in the shadow of Tiger's $54 million mansion. Here's what investigators pieced together. A pressure cleaner truck was attempting to turn into a driveway on this narrow 2-lane road when Woods' Land Rover came barreling down at what witnesses and officials described as a high rate of speed. The road has a 30 miles per hour speed limit. Authorities couldn't determine exactly how fast Woods was traveling, but the word high speed kept coming up in every official statement. As the truck began its turn, Woods tried to pass. He swerved, but he clipped the back end of the pressure cleaner trailer. And that's when physics took over. The Land Rover rolled onto its driver's side. Picture this for a moment. A luxury SUV on its side on an exclusive island road. And Tiger Woods, wearing a blue shirt and shorts, crawling out through the passenger window, standing there beside the wreckage of his vehicle, alone. Martin County Sheriff John Budenseek later described what officers found when they arrived. Woods appeared lethargic. He showed signs of impairment. Not drunk, not slurring, but something was clearly off. The good news? Nobody was hurt. Not Woods, not the driver of the truck. In a press conference, Sheriff Budenseek made a chilling observation. Had there been somebody moving in the opposite direction, we would not be having a conversation saying there was no injuries. This could have been a lot worse. Think about that. This 2-lane road, no shoulder, waterfront community. If there had been oncoming traffic during that rollover, we might be telling a very different story today. DUI investigators arrived at the scene. They conducted what Sheriff Budenseek called in-depth roadside tests. And then came the arrest. Tiger Woods was taken into custody and transported to Martin County Jail. Now here's where things get interesting and complicated. Woods took a breathalyzer test. The result? Triple zeros, 0.00. No alcohol whatsoever. This wasn't a case of a few drinks leading to bad judgment. This was something else entirely. But when officers asked Woods to submit to a urinalysis, a test that could detect other substances, including medications, he refused. Full stop. As Sheriff Budenseek put it, he cooperated with the breathalyzer, and then the urine he wanted no part of. That refusal, that's a charge in itself. So Woods now faces 2 misdemeanor charges: DUI with property damage and refusal to submit to a lawful test. According to Sheriff Budenseek, investigators don't believe Woods was impaired by alcohol, but possibly by some type of medication or drug. And here's the kicker. We will never get definitive results as to what he was impaired on at the time of the crash, the sheriff said. Because without that urine test, there's no hard evidence. Woods was held for 8 hours, the mandatory minimum under Florida law for DUI arrests. Around 11 p.m. Friday night, he was seen leaving the Martin County Jail in the passenger seat of a black SUV. His eyes appeared bloodshot in the booking photo that was released to the media. To understand this incident, you have to understand where Tiger Woods was, physically, mentally, competitively, in the days leading up to March 27th. This is a man who has had 7 back surgeries. 7. The most recent was in September 2025. Before that, in March 2025, he ruptured his Achilles tendon. His last official tournament was the Open Championship in 2024. He hasn't been a competitive force in professional golf for nearly 2 years. But just 3 days before this crash, on Tuesday, March 24th, Tiger made a return of sorts. He played in the TGL Finals, the tech-infused indoor golf league he co-founded. His team, Jupiter Links GC, lost to the Los Angeles Golf Club. But it was a return. A sign that maybe, just maybe, the old Tiger was working his way back. The Masters was less than 2 weeks away, April 9th through 12th. Woods hadn't decided if he was fit enough to play. Can you imagine the pressure? The questions? The expectations? At 50 years old, with a body held together by surgical steel and sheer willpower, contemplating one more run at Augusta. And there was more. Woods was days away from what was described as a soft deadline to decide whether to be the US Ryder Cup captain for the 2027 matches in Ireland. Massive decisions, massive responsibilities, all while managing chronic pain that most of us can't even fathom. This is the backdrop. A man trying to navigate the impossible space between who he was and who he can still be. We need to talk about 2017. Because this isn't Tiger Woods' first DUI arrest. In May 2017, also in Jupiter, Florida, police found him asleep behind the wheel of his Mercedes-Benz. The car was parked awkwardly. The engine was running. The driver's side was damaged. Woods later issued a statement saying, "I want the public to know that alcohol was not involved. What happened was an unexpected reaction to prescribed medications. I didn't realize the mix of medications affected me so strongly." He pleaded guilty to reckless driving. Sound familiar? And then there's February 2021. Los Angeles County. A single car crash that nearly cost Tiger his leg, serious lower body injuries, multiple surgeries, broken bones in his right leg that required what doctors called a long surgical procedure. That crash was ruled an accident. There was no DUI charge, but it raised questions that were never fully answered. Now it's 2026. Another rollover, another Jupiter incident. Another situation involving suspected impairment, not from alcohol, but from something else. The pattern is impossible to ignore. Let's be fair. Let's look at the arguments in his defense because they matter. First, chronic pain is real. Tiger Woods has endured physical trauma that would end most people's careers and lives as they know them. 7 back surgeries, a ruptured Achilles, a leg injury in 2021 that doctors initially feared might require amputation. This man lives with pain that requires management. And pain management often means medication. Prescription medications, painkillers, muscle relaxants, anti-inflammatories. They come with side effects. Drowsiness, impaired judgment, lethargic behavior. Investigators stated they believe Woods may have been impaired by medication, not illegal drugs. If he was taking legitimately prescribed medication as directed, does that make him a criminal? Or does it make him someone whose body chemistry reacted poorly at the worst possible moment? Second, he cooperated. Sheriff Budensiek described Woods as cooperative but not trying to incriminate himself. So he was careful in what he said and didn't say. He took the breathalyzer, He crawled out of his vehicle calmly. He didn't resist arrest. He didn't create a scene. He knew he'd be treated like anyone else under the law, and he accepted that. Third, the refusal of the urinalysis. Yes, it's a charge, but it's also a constitutional right. You cannot be forced to provide bodily fluids without probable cause in certain circumstances. As one South Florida defense attorney noted, without that urinalysis, it may be difficult to prove Woods was actually under the influence of a controlled substance, which is required under Florida DUI law. Refusing a test that could incriminate you isn't necessarily an admission of guilt. It's often just smart legal strategy. Fourth, nobody was hurt. This is crucial. Yes, property was damaged. Yes, the crash was serious, but both Woods and the other driver walked away unharmed. In the grand scheme of DUI incidents, which often result in devastating injuries and deaths, this was, thankfully, not that. And finally, this is a man who has been hounded by his past. Every mistake magnified. Every stumble scrutinized. He's trying to compete at the highest level of a sport that destroys bodies, all while managing the accumulated damage of a 30-year career. Does that excuse poor judgment? No, but it does provide context that matters. Now let's look at the other side, because accountability matters too. First and foremost, he got behind the wheel. Witnesses and officials described Woods as traveling at a high rate of speed on a residential road with a 30 miles per hour speed limit. If he was impaired from medication, from pain, from any substance, he knew it, or he should have known it, and he chose to drive anyway. Second, this is a pattern. 2017, 2021, now 2026. 3 major vehicle incidents in less than 10 years. At what point do we stop calling these isolated mistakes and start recognizing a pattern of poor judgment? This is Woods' second DUI arrest within the last decade. The first time, there's grace. There's understanding. But the second time? That's harder to explain away. Third, the refusal of the urinalysis looks suspicious. Yes, it's his legal right, but it also prevents any definitive answer about what was in his system. If he truly had nothing to hide, if this was just a prescribed medication taken as directed, why not prove it? The refusal creates a cloud of doubt that will hang over this case forever. Fourth, he has resources most people don't have. Tiger Woods is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He has access to drivers, assistants, security teams, friends, family. If he felt even slightly off, if the medication was making him drowsy or impaired, he could have called someone, anyone. There is no excuse for a person of his means and resources to put himself and others at risk by driving when impaired. Fifth, Sheriff Budenseek's statement bears repeating. Had there been somebody moving in the opposite direction, we would not be having a conversation saying there was no injuries. This could have been a lot worse. Luck prevented a tragedy, not judgment, not responsibility, just pure luck. And luck runs out. And finally, he's a role model, whether he wants to be or not. Kids look up to Tiger Woods. Aspiring athletes idolize him. He's tied for the most PGA Tour wins in history with 82, and he's second all-time in major championships with 15. His influence extends far beyond golf, and with that influence comes responsibility. Getting arrested for DUI twice sends a message that undermines every inspiring comeback story he's ever been a part of. So what happens now? Woods faces 2 misdemeanor charges: DUI with property damage and refusal to submit to a lawful test. The refusal charge is a second-degree misdemeanor in Florida that can lead to up to 60 days in jail. But realistically, for a first-time offender on the refusal charge and a second-time DUI offender with no alcohol involved and no injuries, we're likely looking at fines, probation, community service, maybe mandated treatment programs. Defense attorneys have already noted that without the urinalysis results, proving actual impairment will be extremely difficult. The breathalyzer showed 0 alcohol. There's no blood test, no urine test, just the observations of officers who said he appeared lethargic and showed signs of impairment. That's a tough case to prosecute beyond a reasonable doubt. We might see a plea deal similar to 2017. Reckless driving, probation, treatment. The legal consequences might not be severe, but the other consequences, those are already playing out. The Masters starts in less than 2 weeks. Woods' participation now seems highly unlikely, not just because of potential legal restrictions, but because of the distraction, the scrutiny, the questions that will follow him to every press conference, every practice round, every hole. The Ryder Cup captaincy decision. That might be off the table now too. The PGA of America and the European Tour don't want controversy. They want stability, leadership. Can Tiger Woods provide that after this arrest? Sponsors will have decisions to make. Fans will have opinions. Some will defend him fiercely. Others will say enough is enough. The court of public opinion doesn't wait for verdicts. And then there's Tiger himself. What must be going through his mind right now? The embarrassment, the disappointment in himself, the knowledge that he's let down people who believed in him. Again. Here's what this story is really about. It's about pain. Physical pain that doesn't go away, that requires management, that can cloud judgment and decision-making. It's about addiction, not necessarily to substances, but to the identity of being Tiger Woods, to competing when your body is screaming at you to stop. It's about the impossible standards we place on athletes. We want them superhuman on the course and perfect off it. We want comeback stories and redemption arcs, but we also want accountability and consequences when things go wrong. Tiger Woods is human, flawed, struggling, but also trying. Still trying at 50 to squeeze a few more moments of greatness out of a body that's given everything it has. This DUI arrest is a setback, a serious one, but it's not the end of his story. It's another chapter in a life that's been defined by incredible highs and devastating lows. So where do you stand? Is Tiger Woods a victim of chronic pain and medication side effects who made an honest mistake? Or is he a repeat offender who refuses to learn from past incidents and continues to put others at risk? Is this a cautionary tale about the physical cost of athletic excellence? Or is it a story about privilege and lack of accountability? The truth, as I said at the beginning, is rarely simple. Maybe it's all of these things. Maybe Tiger Woods is both a sympathetic figure battling demons we can't fully understand, and a public figure who needs to be held to a higher standard. What we know for certain is this. On March 27th, 2026, Tiger Woods got behind the wheel when he shouldn't have. He crashed his vehicle. He was arrested. And now he has to face the consequences, legal, professional, and personal. Whether this becomes another rock bottom that leads to recovery and redemption, or whether it's the beginning of a darker spiral, only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the world will be watching. Because when it comes to Tiger Woods, we always are.